Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Still operating out of today. We are in my younger daughter's bedroom. I think the only room in my new house that I have not yet recorded a podcast from is my older daughter's bedroom, and that's only because she won't let me in there. So I don't really know what to do about that. I'll see if I could bribe her with something later. But so this is a play on what we've been doing. It's an extension on what we've been doing. Shout out, by the way, to everybody who has joined us for all of the Knicks 25 for 25 episodes so far, in which we have been counting down the top 25 Knicks of the last 25 seasons, top 25 of the century, if you will. And the response has been so great, and we've had so much fun doing them. We figured, hey, let's extend it a little bit and go through some honorable mentions. So to help me kick off the 25 for 25 honorable mention series, I have with me the one and only. I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks. I don't remember the last time I was on a pod with you. Shawn with a W. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? We would have been on the pod together. After Game 6 against Boston, but I was in the city that day, running towards 7th Avenue. But so was life. But it was good to talk to you. I saw you at Fanatics Fest.
Yes.
That was good to see you in person.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny because you and I and Jeff had an interesting discussion about Tom Thibodeau, and then 1 week later, bang, or 2 weeks later, I should say, because I think it was July 3rd, I believe. Whatever. But yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it is good to see you. I will ask you live on the pod because I haven't had a chance officially to ask you this. How has your summer been?
My summer has been, what's funny?
Life is funny, but continue.
Life is funny. Put it to you like this: I thought this summer would be a lot more relaxing, and I'd have a lot more time on my hands to be less busy. And I've been just as busy as I ever have been in my entire life. But I did get some travel in with the family. Went to Jamaica. I spent a weekend in New Orleans. I spent plenty of days in 90-degree heat. Just hanging out and stuff like that, seeing friends, seeing family. So all in all, it was a good summer.
So I don't know when this episode is going to drop, but I will say that my kids went back to school today, and I was reminded. I'm in the process of being reminded because we're this is going to be a slightly quicker episode because I got to get my daughter from the bus. I was reminded how fast 6 hours absolutely flies by. Yeah, but it's good that the kids are back in school. All right, you want to get into Mr. Camby?
Let's get into Mr. Camby.
Okay. So this is the honorable mention series, as I said, in which we are going through the Knicks who did not make the cut of our top 25 for 25. And we are going to start out with the New York Knicks, who finished 26th, one spot out of the voting. We'll put up the voting totals in a minute so you can see how close he came and more specifically who is to blame for Marcus Camby not making our list. But quick resume, Marcus Camby attended UMass. He was drafted number 2 overall by the Toronto Raptors in 1996. That was an Isaiah Thomas pick, right?
It was.
It was an Isaiah Thomas pick.
That might have been their. I think that's their second ever draft. I think that was their second ever draft. I think it started in 95.
Stoudemire was 95, won Rookie of the Year, and then Camby was the number 2 overall pick. It's funny because like Isaiah Thomas gets a lot of crap as for his work as a GM. And he never gets crap for this pick. And obviously, we're here to praise Marcus Camby, so I'm not about to sit here and be like, oh, that was an awful pick. But it is kind of funny when you look at the guys who went after Marcus Camby and the fact that Camby, he never made an all-star team. But Thomas never gets crap for that, which I think, to spin it into a positive, goes towards how impactful and effective Marcus Camby was at all the things that he was supposed to be good at throughout his career. You wouldn't call Marcus Camby a bust, right? I wouldn't call Marcus Camby a bust.
It's funny you say that because
it just doesn't feel. It feels disingenuous to call him a bust.
So here's this interesting. So I was doing research for this pod because Lord knows I don't remember Knicks games from 2001.
How dare you?
I was watching, and I was watching some highlights, and he made a really good play, like a weak side block from the weak side, and the Bill Walton, because it was an NBC game, so Bill Walton, God rest his soul, said, and Toronto traded this guy. So so I started researching it, and I was like, wow, what? Yeah, you're right. Basically, what I wanted to look up was like just to make sure that like Isaiah Thomas was the one that traded him. But actually, according to Basketball Reference, Glenn Grunwald was the executive who made the trade. But I say that to say, so that's probably what. So he doesn't get crap for it for two reasons. One, I mean, Toronto fans could consider him a bust because you traded your number 2 pick after 2 years.
That's fair.
At the same time, I looked at his entire career, and I could not understand why they would have traded him after 2 years, simply because I looked at his numbers, and his numbers are very similar. I was like, the first person that popped in my mind was Evan Mobley. Like, in terms of a raw project drafted high, because he was draft number 3, whatever. And I looked at it, and their numbers are for the first 2 seasons are kind of similar. And imagine if Cleveland after 2 years were like, you know what?
Well, the NBA doesn't work like that anymore, though, because like the thought of trading a number 2 pick who came in, and I'm looking at the averages right now. His rookie year averaged 14-6. His second year averaged 12 and 7.5, and led the league in Imagine this. Imagine a number 2 pick in the draft who led the league in blocks in his second season, and then that guy getting traded for not a whole lot, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah,
so
we'll get to that.
He was traded to the Knicks on draft day in '98 for Charles Oakley and the draft rights to Sean Marks. Yes, you read that correctly. Now, Charles Oakley, obviously an all-time great Knick, but by that point he was, 47 years old. So again, this was like it's a different era in the NBA where stuff like this happened, and people were just like, oh, well, I guess the Raptors traded Marcus Camby. And here we are. He averaged 11.8 points, 11.4 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 2 seasons during the point when we are considering for this list. So again, for anybody who this might be your first 25 for 25, we are starting our consideration with the 2000-2001 season, which means 98-99, or really just 99, and the 99-2000 seasons do not get considered. So half of Camby's resume, including run to the 99 finals, which we'll get back to that in a second, in which he was, according to Larry Bird, the best player on the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the 2000 playoffs, they do not get considered here. So we'll tuck that away. And then he was traded to the Nuggets on draft day in 2002 for Antonio McDyess. It's funny. I'm like drawing a blank right now. Antonio McDyess had a long, successful career with the Knicks, right?
Yes. And then you woke up and remembered that he broke his kneecap in I believe it was the final preseason game.
Dude. I remember that. I remember that night because I was all aboard the McDyess trade. I was like, yes, we got this guy.
So was I. And I don't know, and I forever cursed Don Chaney's name for having him in the game, because I'm pretty sure it was late like late in the game, and he was still in a preseason game. And
imagine if Tom Thibodeau was a coach then.
Yeah, God. I mean, that's just how I remember it. But yes, he was traded for McDyess. But the fact that they traded their second-year player who led the league in blocks for a 34-year-old forward to do what? Like, you want to talk about like how the NBA has changed? Good God.
And the last line on the resume here, he won the 2006-2007 Defensive Player of the Year award with Denver. I'll also note that he finished second in the voting for that award the very next year. The previous year, he finished 5th in Defensive Player of the Year. But a year before that, he finished 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year. Actually got an MVP vote one season when he was in Denver. So, like, again, guy was a Defensive Player of the Year. I understand, Kobe Bryant, one of the X number greatest players of all time, was drafted a lot later. But Ray Allen and Steve Nash, and like there are some other guys from that draft class you could point out. I get that these guys, are top 75 all-time players and were drafted after Camby. It's tough for me to look at him and be like, the guy was a bust, not only for what he did in Denver, but, and this will transition us to our conversation about Camby as a Knick, what he did in New York. And the fact that, like, the league was changing, and I'll put up the voting totals here, as Camby got here. Obviously, the Knicks traded for him either to be a backup for Patrick Ewing or to play alongside Patrick Ewing. And then by the end of his tenure in New York, he was essentially Patrick Ewing's replacement, and until he wasn't. So he finished 26th. You had him 14th. We're going to get back to that in a second. I had him exactly where he ended up. I had him 26. So he ended up 26 based on the average. That was where I had him. So I guess I'm just going to start here. Justify 14, man, because for 2 seasons, 1 playoff series that they lost, that's high.
That is high. I will say this. I listened to the episode with you and Jeff and Andrew about Sprewell. And Jeff made this really good point about how for certain players, the 99 to 2000 seasons influence how you think about them forever.
Sure.
And I think that because even when, as has been mentioned on these podcasts like 1,000 times, when you pleasantly reminded everyone that this starts with the 2000 season and not the 99, and so it doesn't include 99 finals run or the ECF run of 2000. And I changed, and I said, okay, I'm pretty sure I made change. I know I made changes, but I think that those 2 years have a bigger influence on how I look at Camby, because ironically, I remember going back and looking at, okay, I may have to re-rank Sprewell and Allen Houston, and then very similar. Me and Andrew had the same thought process. When I did my research, I saw, both of them made the All-Star team. I was like, I don't have to move them because that much. So if I had to do it over again, I'd probably drop Camby a little lower. I will say that I think he's in the right spot. And the other thing was, John, I think that I had a much rosier memory of his second go around the Knicks than what it actually was.
Well, so we should probably mention that in a season, the 2012-13 season, which was obviously a very successful one for the Knicks, he was on the team. He was certainly on the roster. Was it not Marcus Camby who got Jalen Rose to utter the first ever "keep getting them checks"? I'm fairly certain it was. For anybody who doesn't understand that reference, obviously former Knick Jalen Rose, when he was first started being a talking head, like would identify players who were, let's just say maybe he didn't think that they were contributing enough on the basketball court to justify their salary. And I think Camby was like the first one he kind of blew up his spot. But for what it's worth.
It's funny you say that. I just researched, I just Googled this, and I literally Googled Jalen Rose, Marcus Camby, keep getting them checks. And I found a Reddit post from 12 years ago. So that's 2013.
2013.
It's called "Current Players Who Keep, quote unquote, who keep getting them checks." Was listening to Jalen, and this guy basically said he was listening to Bill Simmons and Jalen Rose, and they mentioned Marcus Camby. So he might be the first.
I think he is. Yeah, I think he. So maybe that should be a feather in his cap, and another reason why he should have made the list. Let's look at like the guys, because I think that's probably like we all look. If you're too young, or I don't know, you maybe just were out on the Knicks for a period of time, you don't remember Marcus Camby. Marcus Camby was I think a guy who would do very well in the NBA today, for one. Mm-hmm. Because yes. I think he, in an era when you didn't really switch all that much, he had the defensive chops to be a switchable defender. And as you could see, just go to his basketball reference page, he was one of, if not the elite shot blocker in all of basketball. And that's where he made his bones defensively, protecting the rim. But he was also this great dive guy on offense where you could just kind of, I would not put him in the same category as one of his teammates on that 2012-13 team, Tyson Chandler, as far as just like throw the ball up, he'll go up and get it and bring it down. But he was effective in that role, was he not?
So it's funny you say that because, again, having it jog my memory, I went into YouTube and I typed search for Marcus Camby Knicks highlights 2012-2013. And I found a highlight reel, but it was 46 seconds long.
Yeah, that's about right.
But there's two takeaways from that highlight reel. One, Marcus Camby was a pretty better high passer out of the high post than I recognized, because in those 46 seconds, he threw 3 lobs to Tyson Chandler. And the second takeaway was, why in God's green earth would you have Marcus Camby and Tyson Chandler on the floor at the same damn time? But again, that was the NBA in 2013.
This is very true. I should also say, worth noting, Marcus Camby, not an elite rebounder for his career, was a pretty good offensive rebounder. Averaged 2.7 offensive rebounds per game, 3.3 offensive rebounds per 36 minutes. So pretty good. That was another way that he was able to like get points. But I think what I remember about him most, and again, it's not relevant for his ranking on this list, which is why he's 26, is just like either end of the floor in the 99 Eastern Conference Finals, anytime the ball was like in open space around either rim, the Pacers rim or the Knicks rim, if the ball was out there, he was just going, getting it, and finding a way to either put it in the basket or passing it back out. Like, that was what he did for those 6 games. And again, it prompted Larry freaking Bird to be like, in a series where it was Reggie Miller, it was like all of these
Johnson,
Allen
Houston,
Spray. Like, he's like, Marcus Camby was the best player in the series, and he wasn't wrong, because I think anybody who watched that series would have agreed with that. Now, in terms of the rankings, putting your number 14 ranking aside, he just went below Deuce McBride at 25, Nate Robinson at 24, Dante DiVincenzo at 23, Derrick Rose at 22. So I think, and then Raymond Felton at 21, Emmanuel Quickley at 20. Quickley is as in as anyone could be. Raymond Felton, I even though if you look at the averages, I think there's a drop off between Quickley and Felton. I don't think there's a world where Raymond Felton was not making this list, right?
No. And to the point that I discussed with Andrew, that Raymond Felton, he's a steady hand, and there's something to be said about being a steady hand.
Starting point guard of the team with the most wins this century, like you're
in.
You're in, and a starting point guard for another or half of a very successful season. Mm-hmm. Derrick Rose, same thing. Now I don't know. Does the conversation start at Rose at who might have gotten bumped off for Camby? Because Rose was only really effective, like really, really effective, for half of one season, especially if you want to count the, 16-17 season as demerit against him. Marcus Camby was very effective for a whole season. And then the 2001-2002 season, which, like, I don't know how much, he played. So that's the other thing. He played 29 games that year. So really, for Camby, like, keep getting him checks, 2012-13.
Yes.
29 games for a bad team in 2001-2002. It's really just the 148-win season that resulted in a first-round playoff defeat that's doing so I don't think there's a conversation about Rose. I don't even think there's a conversation with DiVincenzo. I think if anything, you could maybe have a conversation about Nate Robinson, maybe have a conversation about Deuce McBride. I would have felt something would not have felt right for me if Camby got in over either of those guys. And frankly, if Camby got in and Jeremy Lin didn't, and I know Lin ended up lower than Camby on this list, probably because of your ranking. If we're just calling spade.
I'm not alone. I'm not a snitch, but
you're
I'm
not
not
alone.
alone. I'm not alone.
No, listen, we'll during the Jeremy Lin episode, we'll show all the voting totals, and people could see where respective KFS members had Jeremy Lin. I had him in the top 25, but it was at like the very bottom. I would have felt pretty like we weren't doing our job if Camby got in over Jeremy Lin. I'll just say that.
So one, you just teased that we'll be doing a Jeremy Lin honorable mention episode, and that's going to be fun. So for me, if I had to do this over again, I would. If you gave me the choice of like, okay, Sean, you could put Marcus Camby in the top 25. Who are you taking out? I am taking Nate Robinson, and I'm pushing him over the side of the Titanic.
So the funniest part of easily the funniest part of the spreadsheet, which again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it up right now. I don't think there are two rankings for a player, any player, that are more different. And it's so funny because you and Mensa agree on a lot of shit. Mensa has Nate Robinson ranked 10th, and you have him ranked 39th. Like in what universe?
So I'll say this: we'll do a quick tangent on Nate.
Very
when
quick,
when I saw Mensa had ranked in 10th, I texted him and said, "You should be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law."
I will just say, his 10th place ranking is far more. Your 39th is obviously the lowest on Nate.
Yes.
But there are people closer to you than they are to Mensa with him in 10th.
Yeah. Now, when he gave his explanation on the pod, and I was like, you know what? Okay. If you started because for those who started following this team in the 2000s, and for those who did, God bless you. I understand. But I say that to say, I had a discussion. I discussed this on Study Hall with one Kevin Danishevsky, who wanted to have me tried at The Hague for basketball war crimes for having him 39th. And what I told him, I was like, listen, to be honest with you, after 30, you're shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic for me. That's number one. It's like, all right, like, especially we're talking about a franchise for 18 of those 25 years, they were god awful. It's like, all right, am I losing sleep because the 32nd, I rank someone 39 instead of 32nd, right? But I say that to say, what I told him was that for me, I value contributions to winning. I understand that sometimes it's very hard to contribute to winning on this basketball team in this franchise in this century. So I'm not going to say like, oh, if it wasn't for Nate Robinson, they'd be they would have been a playoff team. But like, Nate Robinson never, like, put it to you like this, and to bring it back to Camby,
move the needle for you.
Put like this: guys who get points on bad teams, I don't care about. And to the point that I had a friend of mine, longtime Knicks season ticket holder, I remember you telling me the story about, Nate would make a good play, and Nate would make a good play, but the scouts would point out to him like, yeah, he made his good play for 2 points, and because he's very happy and showboating his way back down the court, his man beat him down the court and got easy 2 points. I never felt like Marcus Camby. And I think you said this about I think you said it about Kurt Thomas. I never looked at the game and saw Marcus Camby as like, that's the reason why we lost this game. He's the reason why we lost this game.
I think that's accurate. Accurate.
Yeah.
So I think, and we could kind of start to finish up with this. I think the case for Camby, I think essentially you just made it. And I think the case is this. One, I think you have to give some weight, or put some weight, and not a trivial amount of weight, on the fact that he was on the 2012-13 Knicks team. Like, if you just completely ignore that and you say he didn't really contribute to that team in any meaningful way, I just don't think he has any case. All due respect to your issues with Nate Robinson and the fact that he was on a crappy basketball team, I don't think Marcus Camby has any case. But you also need to put a lot of weight on a season which, much like, and I keep joking with Andrew about this, the 2004 playoff run, run. Sorry. The biggest air quotes, run. I think you have to put a lot of weight on the 2000-2001 season, which is a season that just kind of doesn't get remembered, considered like anything in Knicks history, because it was the year after Ewing left. It was the one Glenn Rice year, which again, give me Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell, Glenn Rice. Now that'd probably be a pretty good team, but back then it was an experiment that didn't work, and they lost in the first round. And frankly, they lost the playoff series to a Toronto Raptors team that they shouldn't. I don't think they should have lost to. So you have to put a lot of weight on that. The one thing I will give Camby during that season, a season in which both Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell made the All-Star team. If you look at, put your nerd cap on for a second. If you look on Basketball Reference, box plus minus, Allen Houston 1.1, Latrell Sprewell 0.7, Marcus Camby 4.6. Not only did his number lead the team, it was more than double the next closest guy, which, by the way, was Charlie Ward. Value over replacement player, another advanced statistic that Basketball Reference uses. Camby 3.5, first on the team. Second, Houston 2.2, Sprewell 2.1. And then if you want to just go to, win shares, Camby first with 10.3, Kurt Thomas second at 8.2. So like the statistics say on a 48-win team, despite the fact that they had two All-Stars, Marcus Camby was the most impactful player. I think that has to be the thing.
It has to be a thing. I think his contributions in 2012-13 are more off the court, because you remember, ironically, Knicks team president or GM Glenn Grunwald assembled a team of a lot of veterans, and it was asked why, but it was asked why are you bringing these old guys in for the how they what are they gonna do? But I think he knew this team needed veteran leadership. Him, Rasheed Wallace, Kenyon Martin, and I think that those vets on the team played a much bigger role off the basketball court in the success of that 2013 team that I think people realize. And then back to 2001, I will always remember that 2001 playoff series, because to me that was the beginning of the end, because the Knicks always rolled out of bed and not only made the playoffs and won a playoff series, and it was we lost in 5 to the purple team, expansion team, dinosaur
Sean, it was
team.
Unheard of. They never lost in it sounds crazy to say now.
They never. First
round playoff series for the Knicks for the decade before that. They were just a formality. That's all they were.
Complete. It was we're going to win the first round and then lose to Chicago or Miami or Indiana in the second round. But fait accompli. Sometimes we beat them. God, trust me. But that series, that always for a while we were the Raptors' only playoff win in their franchise history. But again, to your point, Marcus Camby basically filling the shoes of Patrick Ewing, and while he was never going to fill his shoes at 190 or 80%, he was admirably, to your point, he made winning plays, and you did not lose a game because you have Marcus Camby on the floor.
And again, maybe it's indirectly relevant to the placement of Camby on this list. The dirty little secret of the 99 playoffs is that once Patrick Ewing went out with the injury after game 2 of the Pacers series, it opened the door for Camby to kind of maybe not play a ton more minutes, but have a different role. And the team they were just better against the Pacers. They were better with Camby on the floor. Could they have used Patrick Ewing in the finals against David Robinson and Tim Duncan? Probably. Which leads me to the last thing I'm going to say. Unless you look this up, there's no way you would know this. Do you want to guess, last nerd moment of the podcast, where Marcus Camby ranked in the NBA, not on the Knicks, in the NBA, in win shares per 48 minutes during the 2000-2001 NBA season?
Because win shares skew towards big men, I'm going to say 4th.
You're one off. He was he was third.
I was going to say third. I was like, third is too much.
Behind David Robinson and Shaquille O'Neal, and just ahead of Dirk Nowitzki, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Ray Allen, Vince Carter, Tim Duncan, Sean Marion. I'm just going to keep going. Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Tracy McGrady, Chris Webber, and in 15th place, Kurt Thomas.
You're
Vindication. I'm not making it up.
Vindication for you and vindication for me. Yes, you know what? He deserves to be 14th. He was third in win shares in 2001.
There it is. Okay, behind 2 MVPs. This was great. This was fun. I'm glad we're doing the honor rules because, like, and you know what? For as shitty of a last 25 years as it's been for the most part, the fact that we could actually do honorable mentions episode after a top 25 and have like a handful, because we're going to do more than just Camby, and it not be completely ridiculous. I think that's like, says something. I don't know what it says. It says something.
It speaks to how far we've come in the last 5 years. Because, like Jeff said, if we didn't have the last 5 years, oh boy, there'd be.
Well, then Camby would have ended up 14th if we didn't have the last 5 years. And Nate Robinson might have been the top 10. That's. You're shaking your head. Okay, that's our cue to get out of here. Sean, I think you're going to be on another one of these honor rolls episodes, right? Coming up.
Oh yes, and I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, I'm sure you are. Yeah, no, we're gonna have some more interesting conversations as this process finishes up. Thank you, Sean, for coming on today. Thanks everybody out there for continuing to check out our summer content. It's been a lot of fun for us. I hope it's been filling the basketball list void for you. But hey, it's September. Media Day is later this month. I can actually say that. And then we'll get some fake games in Abu Dhabi, right? I keep forgetting.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi.
Okay, there you go. Those I'm sure those will be thrilling affairs. And keep supporting the show out there. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you, I know we always say it and it probably goes in one ear and out the other, but seriously, if you have an extra 2 minutes today and you really dig Knicks Film School, give us a 5-star rating, write a little review. It could be one sentence long, but those things help us out. And we will be back with more fun and games before you know it. Peace out.